Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time, please click like, subscribe, comment, and also follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. You are stronger than you think. The odds are you will not face a traumatic brain injury, but in this episode today, our guest can promise you will be called to face some adversity in your life. Are you prepared to face it? At 28, he was leading a healthy, active life, but after an optometrist appointment that led to an emergency brain surgery. On June 21st, 2014, his reality was shattered by a devastating brain hemorrhage. With no map to guide him on a grueling path to recovery, Dan had to rely on his grit, perseverance, and resilience to relearn everything he once knew. How to walk, talk, and even smile. Let's welcome to the show for the first time, Daniel MacQueen. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you, Reverend. Lovely to be here.
Awesome. Let's go back in time just before this happened and leading into this incident.
Yeah, for sure. So this all happened back in 2014 in jolly old London, England. I was living there after a master's in Sweden. I did a master's in leadership for sustainability in Malmo, Sweden, and figured let's continue the joyride in Europe for a bit longer.
Yeah.
Where language is not going to be an issue. So I moved to London, and then I got a job in tech. A company called Hootsuite. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Oh, yeah.
Social media management platform for those that are not. Worked in tech, lots of nights out, cafes, restaurants, five-a-side footy, like soccer, five-a-side soccer. I started having these headaches that were getting persistently worse over a few weeks. I was popping painkillers like candy, and my head was just going, it was mayhem.
Yeah.
I went to A&E, which is accident emergency, twice. The first time, they thought it was vertigo and they sent me home, but they told me if the headaches were to continue, well, they went home after the first visit. I went home, continued on with my day-to-day, took the medication they gave me. I was on the tube one day. The tube's how you get around London. And my vision is blacked out for 3 minutes.
Wow.
So I knew something was really wrong here. And I went back to A&E the second time. They ran similar tests. They thought it was vertigo again. They sent me home. On the way out, they told me if the headaches were to continue, I could always get my eyes checked in an optometrist. So, okay, I'll take that on, food for thought. The next day, the headaches came back with a vengeance. It was not normal.
Yeah.
And I decided I'm going to go to the optometrist to get this checked out. I'm determined to figure out what's going on here. I was midway through that exam when Mr. Patel stopped it. He excused himself from the room and he came back a few minutes later with a sealed envelope. He told me to go directly to Moorfields Hospital, which I did. Well, tell a lie. I stopped at home first to grab a Jack Reacher book by Lee Child and a phone charger and a bite to eat. Then I made my way to Moorfields Hospital. They ran the same test there, then escorted me up to Charing Cross Hospital.
Huh.
It turns out I had a dangerous buildup of pressure in my brain caused from a non-cancerous cyst in my head. It turns out I required emergency brain surgery tomorrow.
Whoa.
It turns out my world was about to change altogether. So, rallying the folks in Canada, frantic back and forth, I was on the operating table. They were flying to London. On the operating table, I had a massive bleed in the brain, a brain hemorrhage. So my mom lands and finds I'm in critical condition. I was in a coma for 4 weeks.
Whoa.
Well, was in and out of consciousness for months after this. Things were dicey, touch and go.
Yeah.
After all was said and done, I was learning how to walk, talk, and smile, Reverend. So that's kind of where everything kicked off for me. And this is in June 2014 in London, England.
Ooh. Now, how long was the recovery time to the at some point of waking up and kind of getting some sort of realization of what had actually happened?
Well, I was in Charing Cross Hospital for 3 months, learning how to get into a wheelchair. That took 45 minutes, then 40 minutes, then 35, then 30. It was arduous, difficult, grindy to get in there, and it was very much a mental game.
Yeah.
Because I realized, you're alive, you're trapped in this body, you can't really work that you used to work, and your brain's not working as it used to, and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, this brain injury didn't kill you. And the odds of a brain injury, having a nasty impact on you are pretty staggeringly high. It's pretty gruesome and pretty tough to battle back from. So the odds that didn't kill you, that's a shot. That's one strike in my area. And then I realized that it was what I thought about it that mattered more than what it was, because I couldn't walk, right? So I had to wear a splint 1 hour a night to stretch out my leg.
Mm-hmm.
That was horrifically painful, Reverend. That was the most painful thing in the hospital was that by far. And I had to wear that once at 1 hour every night, kind of build up my leg muscle and to strengthen it back out so I could stretch it back in to build it up the next day in the gym.
Yeah.
But that was just horrifically painful to wear this. And so to answer your question, how long did it take? I was in Charing Cross for 3 months, Wilson Rehab Center for 3 months, and then I was probably rehabbing back at home for 6 months, so about a year to get back to some semblance of normal.
Wow. And like you said, being trapped in a body and you can't go anywhere. And I mean, I've had an out of body experience, but I've never through a tragic accident and stuff, and I know the feeling, but being conscious, being awake, and realizing that your body doesn't work. It's not doing what you want it to do and what you need it to do, and consciously and spiritually, and you're trapped. I mean, yeah, that, yeah.
Yeah, my a friend of mine visited me, Andrew Rogers visited me in London. He goes, it was quite interesting to listen to you, Dan, and talk to you, because I'd speak about what I wanted to do and how I couldn't do it because there was a barrier there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about, I want to do this right now, but I'm not able to move my muscle this way.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting to hear you talk about that, because it showed a level of awareness that, they were glad that I had, because after the brain injury, you're not sure what the prognosis and long-term effects will be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I first woke up from the brain injury, I tried to talk, but I couldn't talk. So I had a tracheotomy removed, and it took me a few weeks to get my vocal cords back. My mom, dad, and brother on the table, around the bed. And I'm trying to talk, but I can't talk. And then I go, give me a pen and paper.
Yeah.
I can communicate. And they're probably like, oh, this is great. At least he can think to write, which is a sign that he's not totally gone. And I wrote down the pen and paper, get me out of here. And I shared with my brother. I go, yeah, man, you got to make that happen right now. And I'm like, I had tubes coming out of me. I had one eye wonky as hell, and I couldn't walk. I was in the hospital for months after this, but my first reaction was this looks expensive. Let's get the hell out of here.
Oh yeah.
Luckily I was covered by a European passport in London, so I was covered by healthcare, which is helpful. In the States, it's probably would have bankrupt me, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a traumatic experience in every sense of the word.
Oof. So I want to dive into some of the work that you're doing now. Can you explain some of the work? I notice you do a lot of lectures and orations for companies, corporations, and groups.
Yeah, so I'm a speaker now. I'm speaking to associations, schools, businesses, and kind of sharing a roadmap through adversity and resilience. Something I think we could all use at this stage in the game is, how to handle adversity. So as you mentioned in the intro, you're probably not going to have a brain hemorrhage, but you will take, as Mike Tyson famously said, that punch to the mouth, that job loss, a breakup, a diagnosis for your loved one.
Mm-hmm.
How will you handle that setback, that knock? And I've been through 3 rather big setbacks. The first brain hemorrhage, a setback which happened a year later, and a job loss last summer. And I've kind of shortened the acceptance space to get down to an adequate time. And I can tell you with my whole heart that acceptance is the most important step in this process. And like, if you can accept something, you can improve it and address it. If you don't accept it, you're just spinning your tires. It's not fair it happened. You're right, it's not fair.
Yeah.
But you got to keep asking that question, that and what question. And what do you expect to have happen now? Well, this never happens to John or Jim or Sarah. Like, why me? It's, well, and you eventually you burn yourself out and you're left with like, well, I could have been taking steps this whole time to improve my lot. But instead of been whinging about why this happened to me, it's not fair. And you're right, it's not fair. And this is tough for people to hear because people are like, well, it's not fair it happens. Like, you're right, it's not fair. But like, no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
And if you think that you're gonna get saved through this process, like, and I had a lot of help, Reverend. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like I did this all myself, because that's far from the truth. But no one's coming down that road to save you. You got to kind of walk your way down that road yourself,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I'm trying to instill in my talks and my perspectives. And we'll see. It's a budding business, and I've got lots of deals in the autumn, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. And you're right. It's when things like this happen, there's got to be because I there's so many people. I've done it. It's when it comes to these changes and these adversities, we want to fight it. We're trying to battle against it and fight against it so hard, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. But there's a point there where you're going to have to sit back and go, I have to accept this. I have to accept this part of the journey, because that part of the journey is trying to tell us something. Do you feel that?
I feel that for sure. And it's like, it takes, like, this is not easy to do. Like, don't make me think this is easy to make acceptance. Like, well, this is not fair. Like,
Yeah.
I had to break up a job loss. Like, my infant died. Like, these are horrible things that are travesties. They're horrible. But I'm telling you from my experience, the faster you get into acceptance, the faster you can heal and rebuild your life. The first brain injury I had took about a month. I had a setback after this, Reverend. I'll talk about this with your audience. So after a year about rehabbing myself back to work, I maybe went back to work for 2 half-days a week, 3 half-days a week. And I had this little routine where I met Mom at the tube before I jumped on the tube to work to make sure that I got off on time and everything was okay. One day I didn't show up. And she goes, that's kind of odd. She called me, no answer. Walked back to my flat and walked into my flat and found me unconscious in the floor of my flat.
Wow.
So I have a shunt in my brain from the first brain injury. That had block leading to hydrocephalus or water on the brain. It's very rare. Happens in less than 10% of cases. And it required emergency brain surgery. So I was rushed off to the hospital. And I woke up in the hospital a day later, hearing the beeping noise of the heart rate monitor, confused as all hell, thinking, what happened? What happened? And they told me, well, Dan, you had a second brain injury. You had to have emergency brain surgery. And I go, well, what do you mean? Well, all my progress is washed away. And they go, well, we got the blockage, but you had a second emergency brain surgery. And I was thinking, woe's me, this isn't fair. Like, I really spiraled for a week there. Like, this is not good. Because I've been working for a year to get back to work, and I was starting to make progress and gains and small gains, and then the carpet gets ripped from underneath me.
Yeah.
And I was devastated, isn't even close to the word to describe it. Like, the lowest I've ever been in my life was the stage. Because all that progress was washed away in an instant. And I had to really go into myself to kind of find out how I'm going to build back from this and progress. But then I started to think about this, this didn't kill you. And I've done rehab before, so I know how to build back better. I know how to rehab myself faster and better. I know what kind of mistakes I made the first time. I can avoid those. And I slowly got myself out of the pity spiral. And, you got to focus on what you can control and really dive into that. And that's really what I used to leverage my experience to kind of build back and get back up from the ground, because this was not easy at all. This was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it was simple. Mm-hmm. What I mean by this is, like, it was simple to decide that I want to walk again, or I want to go back to work again, or I want to do this again. But it wasn't easy to execute it. In your life, you'll have choices that are going to be easy or simple but not easy. Simple to decide you want to go right, but right happens to be right uphill. So that's kind of the mindset taken on board with these setbacks. And, like, acceptance is the key here, Reverend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you, lack of a better word, mind over matter, did you feel that the control of either mind over matter, law of attraction, or just the will the will to move forward, the will to say, I am going to speak again, the will, I am going to walk again. And then it being kind of battled against that in the back of your mind of that thought that, is this worth it? Have you ever felt that?
Yeah, the will was there for sure. Like I'm a pretty stubborn guy. And I think like the way she got me speaking again was she took me down to the park. Early days from the brain injury, I had the breathing tube removed, I couldn't speak. She took me down to the park and she sat me in front of these kids across the park playing playing soccer in the park. She goes, Dan, the kids across the park, they don't think you're good enough to talk, Dan. They don't think you're good enough to talk. So I found my voice and I shouted all manner of obscenities towards them. I'll spare you and your listeners, but I found my voice and like I realized that in that moment, like what my motivation was.
Yeah.
Proving people wrong was huge. That will was so key. Like I'm gonna come hell or high water. I'm making it up this hill. I'm making it to this point. And I'm just saying, like for your listeners, like you got to find out what motivates you and ride that wave. Don't judge the motivation. It's not good or bad. If it motivates you, ride that wave down.
Yeah.
I'm now trying to transition my motivation from less of proving you wrong to helping you in service. But that's because I don't want to be a bitter, jaded old man. I want to be like a guy who's happy-go-lucky, light, fun. But that fire to prove you wrong is what got me off the mat. And that fire to prove you wrong is what got me walking again. And like really proving those people right that really believed in me. Like friends came out to visit me from Vancouver. And I was so motivated to show them that I was working and trying hard. A friend came from London or from Vancouver to London. And then she went up to Scotland. And when she came back down, I was walking again. In a matter of like a week and a half. And she goes, Dan, that's huge progress. And I'm like, yeah, I wanted to show you I'm trying here. I'm worthy of the praise you're giving me.
Yeah.
If you're flying here to support me and prove me wrong, like I want to show you that I'm busting my tail to make this work. And like, I don't know if it's a law of attraction or whatever have you, but like maybe it's just pure bullheadedness. But it's like I'm not going to be denied.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And before I jump into some of the other questions as far as some of your other work, people can find you on your website at www.MacQueenDan.com, MacQueenDan.com.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Reverend.
You're very welcome, and they can also see it and watching the video, and we'll have all the stuff in our video description as well. So, got a couple keywords or would like definitions to these. So, you've got one called gamification. Can you explain what that is?
Oh, gamification. Yeah.
Gamification.
I think I might have misspelled that when I said it to you. Gamification. So, what's this guy's name? Alan Watts.
Oh, yes, he's my favorite.
He talks about like making things about play, and if you make it about play, you never work a day. Nothing's arduous or difficult. You're having fun. If you can make things about gamification, you're having life a bit lighter.
Mm-hmm.
So with the brain injury, I kind of made it a game. Like, well, how can I have fun with this process? Like, this is a wild experience. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I call it an icebreaker. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So an icebreaker is someone who walks in front of you, who breaks the ice for you in like a busy area in London, especially. So like Piccadilly Circus, Oxford Circus, they're busy areas in London. Not New York levels, but they're busy. And so what you want to do is find someone walk in your direction and follow right behind them so they break the ice for you. They're dealing with the oncoming strife to navigate that, and you just coax in their wake. Like you're drafting off them like a cycling race as well.
Yeah.
Like that's a game that I kind of came up with to like have fun here. And if I can, find an icebreaker in a busy situation, it makes it a bit lighter and fun for me. Conversely, going on the tube, I would call it betting on the ponies. I try to gamble and stand in front of people I thought would be getting off the stops ahead so I could get their seat. With the brain injury, sitting down on the tube makes a big difference for my fatigue. So little things like this allow me to have a bit more fun with this process. I was on this podcast a little while ago for video games. I was a bit worried about this because I'm not a big gamer, to be honest, but I played video games back in the day when I was in university, high school. But 64 was my game, and that's like Nintendo 64.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Games like Mario Kart. So to put that in the context of a Mario Kart game, it'd be like, you're on this race and there's an obstacle in turn 2 on the left-hand side. Hit it once, okay. Unfortunate. Hit it twice, the obstacle's there, avoid it next time. Hit it 3 times, like, hey man, the obstacle's there, avoid that turn on turn 2. Avoid the left-hand side. Like, you got to kind of understand that this is a game here, and you got to adapt to this in a way that's going to allow you to be successful. But that's kind of how I communicate gamification and use that to rebuild my life after this injury. So I think it's quite key. The Alan Watts thing is huge. The play is huge. Make life about play, and it's a lot easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what is turning down the suck?
Turning down the suck.
S-U-C-K.
S-U-C-K?
Yep, S-U-C-K.
Yeah, turning down the suck. So this is a story I use. Share the story about learning to walk in Tooting Broadway. So let me paint the context for you and your listeners in case you haven't been to London or haven't been there in a little while. So it's an area in South London called Tooting Broadway. It's an area they call up and coming, okay? So think loud sirens, drugs, gangs, dirty, hectic, busy. Walk with a cane. After 3 months in a wheelchair, I'm walking with an eye patch. I'm Bambi on ice. I turn the corner to walk onto Tooting Broadway for the first time. Immediately get slammed into by someone. I stagger back a few feet. Someone scurries past me on the right-hand side. Thought I was done with the rats. Someone had been stabbed in the sidewalk back here. I'm thinking this is a pretty wild place to learn to walk. After a few days of this, I was thinking this is the worst place to learn to walk in the world. Can't you see I'm trying to walk here? Can't you see I'm trying here? And then one day my perspective shifted. Maybe this isn't the worst place to learn how to walk in the world. Maybe this is the best. If I can walk here, I can walk anywhere.
Yeah.
And Tooting Broadway didn't change, did it, Reverend? It went from the worst to the best in my mind, and I'm reflecting that. What are you looking at in your life you're convinced is the absolute worst? Convinced it's the worst. Hey, maybe it is. You can find a way to turn down the suck a little bit. You can find a way to shift that perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm telling you this story is you can change the way you look at the world. Because when you do, oftentimes your world changes. That mindset shift of the worst and the best literally turned down the suck in my experience and made it a lot less difficult and strenuous, and I can enjoy the experience and relish the hurt and the struggle.
Oops. And yeah, it's all about our perception. It's we have to change that way of telling ourselves, let's try to perceive this in a different way to where, it helps us. So yeah, it's all about perception.
That made all the difference for me. Like that, the worst and the best, and like when I changed the way I looked at that, like I didn't mind going for my walks because every time someone crashed into me or bumped into me or was a bit busy or hectic or scandal like scary, it's like, hey man, this is making you better. Like relish this opportunity. What a gift it is to learn in this tough environment because it's the best place to learn how to walk in the world.
Yeah.
Not the worst. And like that. Like just that little shift in perspective made all the difference, right? The worst and the best.
Yeah. Huh. Absolutely. Chop wood, carry water. What's that mean?
Yes, this is one that I've recently kind of used to describe, being a speaker now. It's challenging. It's difficult to bang the drum every day for business development, trying to find new deals and chase down this goal. I get a bit stressed occasionally, and like I wonder what should I do. A bit scattered. What can I do to do this? And I go, no, Dad, take a breath. Chop wood, carry water. Get to work. Like you know what you need to do. Put the work in the routines. Pump out your pod match results. Engage in business development. Spend some time working on your talk. Like you've got a structure that made you successful. Follow the structure. Follow the routine. It's get to work. The chop wood, carry water is when I get frazzled, when I get stressed. No, take a breath. Focus on what you know you can control and what actually delivers value, and focus on that. So chop wood, carry water is a way for me to remind myself, stick to the plan, baby, stick to the plan. That's a good one that I use now, and it's quite helpful for me to keep on track when I'm feeling a bit stressed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Know what I call them, and being in planning and engineering, is our critical path. Look at our critical path. What is it that's needed now in order to move forward, move to that next step? And then worry about all this little stuff later, all this stuff that really doesn't matter. Worry about that later.
Yeah, I like that.
So, yeah. What is two for the road attitude?
That may be something we don't want to talk on this episode, Reverend.
All right.
Just thinking just to help me help you.
Yeah. The language would definitely change a little bit.
Yeah.
We could save that for another another channel.
Sure.
Okay. Is it the same for naked walks?
No, naked walks is totally wholesome and fine.
Okay, that's good. Let's go with that
So
one.
naked walks, despite the raunchy name, that's pretty clean, pretty safe. It just means walking without support or aids. It's funny when I give talks at organizations and companies, they go, oh, Marta, we talked about this, so I'm going to show you the video of naked walks right now. They go, no. And it's me just walking without support or aids. I was walking naked, but it was like, I'm having fun here. The gamification lives on, right? Like naked walks for me, that we have fun because when I tell it to you, like, what's a naked walk down? You walk around naked in the hallways of the hospital? Like, no, it's just walking without support or aids. But the gamification lives on here, right? It's like, I'm having fun. I'm a bit cheeky, a bit smug, a bit funny. It's like naked walks, man. They're fun.
Yeah.
And it marked a progression in my life and my recovery, which is quite nice.
Yeah, at first when I heard that, I'm going, okay, naked walks. Naked in my means that you're stripped of all tools, you're stripped of all money, all of your materialistic things, and you're walking. Because if you're traveling with nothing, you're barren, then you have nothing to hide. You have nothing to,
So when I first got back to walking, like I wore the splint, and then I would walk with a Zimmer frame. Moved up to the Ferrari, which is a four-wheeled walker in Ferrari racing red. Gamification lives on.
Yeah.
Fun here, and then moved up to naked walk. So it's like a progression to like nothing, no support or aids. I'm walking naked, so it was a big deal to get to the naked walks, right? And that was before I walked in Tune Broadways and naked walks. So slowly progressing yourself up. That's kind of like a metaphor for this whole experience. It's like, don't try to jump from here to walking in Tune Broadway, but I built up to the Zimmer frame, to the Ferrari, to naked walks, to walking in Tune Broadway. There's a whole bunch of steps that I can, take a small step and not a huge step. And that's like a big thing with recovery too, is like, don't try to, the old expression, you don't eat an elephant in one go, you eat it in many bites at a time. Like it's like, pick a small target, reach that target. If you can't reach that target, that's fine. Take a step back and make a smaller target that you can hit.
Yeah.
That's how I'm able to hit my goals, is that I just make sure they're all as attainable. I'm never stretching that far. I know that I can hit them and I can reach them. And like, it's allowed me to have a lot of success with goal setting and stuff like that, because I've been very realistic when I can do and not try to bite off more than I can handle.
Absolutely. Got another one called Moonshot Goals. Is that a clean one?
That's a clean one, man. Yeah.
There you go.
So Moonshot Goals. This was so early days from Charing Cross Hospital after the brain hemorrhage. I was in a wheelchair, and I was working with my rehab team on the even bars. Now, even bars are just what they sound like. Even bars you hold when you're unstable on your feet. They were asking me, what I was most looking forward to get back to doing. And I thought about this. Like, I used to play a lot of sports like soccer, hockey, volleyball, softball, skiing. And I thought, what would be the most difficult thing that's realistic that I can get back to doing? And I thought, skiing would be pretty difficult. Balance, core strength, depth perception, double vision, which I still have today, would make things interesting. Gauging obstacles at speed. If I could ski again, I'd have to be in a pretty way physically.
Yeah.
So I told them I want to ski again. And they paused and they looked at each other and they go, okay. I'm sure this is a nothing exercise like designed to get me thinking about future goals. But that burned in the back of my mind. As when I said I was going to do, I was like, I'm skiing. So that's when I wanted to make this happen. I said 2022. For those of you keeping score at home, that happened this past winter. And it was 10 years from my last ski trip to Morrissey in France. It's kind of a nice round number. So we're pretty late in the season, into March. Brought the skis in the shop. They get waxed. They get sharpened. They couldn't get the bindings adjusted. Those were too old to be worked on. So they were too old for liability reasons.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool. That's fine. That's no big deal. So we got ourselves a date, March 31st, and we landed on sun, which is key because in the springtime and conditions, if you're skiing in the rain on the base, you're skiing in the rain on the hill, and that sucks. It was a gorgeous bluebird day, which is fantastic. And I was at the base of the Grouse Mountain sky ride. Remember an old hack. This was to be the last one on the gondola. That way you can rest your skis and poles on the doors that close behind you.
Yeah.
I used to be a ski racer, so I used to go up the hill all the time. And this was like an old hack where, like, you belonged on the hill, like I'm going to get the spot. have your hands free to like cruise up the gondola. It's pretty cool. Now we're on the gondola ride going up, right over the first tower. Big forwards, big back, and I'm thinking to myself, what if it doesn't come back?
Hmm.
No, it's gonna come back, right? Now, if you wouldn't mind closing your eyes along with your listeners, I'll take you up the last leg of the hill.
Definitely.
You're gonna feel a nip of cold in your cheeks, not much, but enough to let you know your altitude. We're gonna dock at the station. You're gonna clump to the station with your gear into a wall of sunshine. Beautiful bluebird day. Big inhale. Smell the pines, the fresh air, the snow. Down the stairs. Clang, clang, clang onto the snow. Crunch, crunch, crunch. It's soft pack. It's spring, don't you know? You can open your eyes, please. We get situated in the hill with the boys, Andrew and RJ. And then I've got this wonderful video of me ripping down the hill like I never missed a day. It all came back. 3 pumps of the poles into a left-hand turn. I remember this old hack as an instructor to hold your poles in your hands like this. That way your upper body's still and your lower body's active like a duck. It's a proper way to ski in good form. And I ripped it. The first time I went fast since the brain injury. But this is a moonshot goal. To tell you I thought this was possible when I said it out loud at the hospital would be a lie. This was through and through a moonshot goal, something bold to aspire to. Something, if I could only get back doing this, wouldn't that be something? And here I am skiing. Now, you have goals you're aiming at, things you're shooting for. What's holding you back? You're not able to walk, talk, or smile? There's a quote I use when I tell this story oftentimes, and I'll share with your listeners, Reverend. We all have 2 lives. And the second begins when we realize that we only have one. And that quote, the first time I heard that, like, knocked me on my backside because that's pretty profound. This experience skiing was like the happiest day I've had since brain injury. And something I didn't think would be possible to accomplish. I said it out loud, I tracked it down, and I took a shot. A moonshot, and I bloody hit. So like it was pretty cool. And that was a phenomenal day on the hill. So thank you for bringing that up, Reverend.
You're very welcome. What was the going to go back here a little bit. What was the worst and the best memory that you had in the hospital?
Yeah, so this is one I used to get interviewed by these new doctors in the UK, which has been odd because in the UK, you get chosen for medical school out of high school to you're like 18-year-old, right? So I'm getting interviewed by these 18-year-old like doctor trainees. They go to my house because my old GP Jens Foles would set me up with these guys for interviews. So I had 2 of them come over and we had a chat about like my experience in the medical space because it was quite intensive. There for 6 months. I got a thing or two to say about this and what I thought was helpful and not helpful. And it came up like, what was the worst and the best memory in the hospital? I'll start with the worst and end with the best to keep it on a happy note.
Yeah.
The worst experience I had was getting my eyes checked at the optometrist, and she drags the pen down like this. She goes, track the pen down, don't move your head. Let me know when you can't see it anymore, okay? And I go, well, I can't really see that because the double vision's there. When that goes away, I should be able to track that just fine. And she goes, oh, that's not going to go away.
Oh.
And I said, excuse me? She goes, oh, it's not going to go away. But I never heard that before. And she's just like, well, this is for life. I'm like, well, yeah, that's my life. Like, this is just news to me. This is for life. Like, who? Like, thank you. Like, I'm a person here, not a bloody number. Like, that hit me to my core and rocked me for days. Like, I was so shook by this and so angry and pissed at her about her, like, telling me in this casual, blasé way.
Yeah.
Because treating me as a patient first and a person second. I told them, don't ever do that when you're a doctor. Don't ever do that. Always a person first. I'm a person first, and then tell me the medical stuff afterwards. But treat me as a person, damn MacQueen first, and then a patient second. Rule number 1. The best memory I had in the hospital was me and my doctor, Jens Foles, for the first time. Out of the hospital, I had my cane, my eye patch. I'm sitting in the waiting room that's packed. It's stacked with people. It's out of control packed. He goes, damn MacQueen. Go over here, doctor. Kind of lurching over towards him with the cane and the eye patch. And he goes, Dan. In front of the whole waiting room, right? He goes, Dan, I read your file. My file was probably 2 of these. It was extensive, right? He goes, I thought you'd be a wreck. And I'm walking over to Jens and I go, Jens, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But like, I love that story because it shows off how quick-witted and brilliant I am, first of all. But secondly, it shows off the human relationship that Jens and I had, the person first and patient second relationship. We would banter, be dry, dark, and sarcastic about all this stuff, because if you can't laugh about this, I mean, it gets pretty dark in there. If you can't laugh about the dark stuff, then you're gonna have a tough time. But like, that line was great, and it showcased that we have a good relationship now. Jens is someone I still consider a friend, and I never call him doctor, which probably, excuse me, doctors, if this offends you, but like, I always call him Jens because
Yeah.
it's more of a relationship than a doctor-patient relationship, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. There's very few doctors that, I don't know, it's just medical doctors. I'm a different doctor. I'm a PhD, not an MD. So, and I tell you, there's a lot that I've fired because they just didn't do their job. They don't look after my best interests. So I feel you on that. I understand. But yeah.
It was like that. Like, that's for life. Like, I can't tell you how much that hurt, Reverend. That was like a gut punch that just echoed through my whole body and just reverberated for days, weeks, and it was forever to get over it. Like, it was, I can feel it now. It was just hard to take, and like, oh my, this is the inconsiderate nature in which she told me, just like, oh, this for life. It's like, yeah, it's my life. Like,
Yeah.
you get to look at me for this one interaction, but like, this is what I'm living with for the rest of my life now, and like, it was very frustrating.
Yeah. I imagine. How are you now?
Yeah, good. I mean, I still have double vision, which is a pleasure for me to see two of you, Reverend. I had eye surgery a couple weeks ago, which is not corrected. I'm afraid it's still there, but it's I was taking a shot. It wasn't really like a sure thing that was going to correct it, but I was going to hopefully try and improve it if I could. And I'm sorry to say the second surgery has not really made much of a difference. It's made it maybe a bit more distracting than it was in the past, but it's something I'm marching towards because I want to improve it if I can.
Mm-hmm.
I'd hate to know in 20 years' time I could have removed this with surgery now.
Yeah.
So I'm rather taking the shot now to improve it. If I can't improve it, then I'll just deal with it. But it's still another few weeks of healing and recovery. We'll see how it goes, but it's still two of you, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, is there a light at the end of the tunnel for this corrective? Do they see something that anything promising for it?
It's they told me they can never make it won't make the eyes any worse. It'll shift the double vision where it is now. The problem is, like, the two images play in my brain, but they don't merge into one.
Mm.
So in short, there's no cure for this. There's something called torsion, which
Yeah.
is like it's not like for like. It's like and then one's tilted slightly.
Yeah.
We're trying to tilt it back so it overlays into one and then merges into one in my brain, which is quite difficult to do. There's only one guy in BC who can do this, and it's hasn't fixed it just yet. But it's, who knows? Maybe in time it'll heal better. But it's you learn to deal with it. I don't know, Reverend. It's something that's like a knock, but it's not. I can see at least, it's not helpful to be able to, like, at least I can do this, because that's a bit unempathetic towards the experience. But like, honestly, I couldn't walk, talk, or smile for the longest time, and then I got that back, and that was pretty cool. And like, now it's like I can see, it's just not perfectly laid out, and it's not insurmountable, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. 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 With the up and coming technologies that are out there, I'm surprised nobody made some glasses that some technological glasses that can shift it, like take what your brain is seeing and actually reverse that effect, and transversing that into image to where you actually can see clear.
Yeah, it's look, it's frustrating as all manner of substance, but it's like acceptance piece, right? Like, back to acceptance. Like, yeah, it sucks and it's not fair, but like, this is your lot right now. You can whinge about it, you can get on about it. I'm like, you know what? Let's not worry about it too much. Like, it's there. It's not a be all end all. It's I was walking in Seattle last week and I tripped and fell in the dark because I couldn't see that well, and that's like probably the most issue that I'm gonna have with it. And I recovered well, didn't fall too hard, recovered well, but like, that's a real thing I got to deal with now. It's like adjusting to the new double vision.
Yeah. But it's a blessing that you can still see. Thank God for that, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's acceptance, right? Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
And that sounds a bit harsh and a bit dry, but like if you go through life always worrying about woulda, coulda, shoulda, you're not gonna get much done. So like I just kind of live this and like move on, pivot
Exactly.
and iterate. Let's go. If it's not gonna fix it, let's go somewhere else. And that's easy for me to say, but it's difficult to do.
Hmm.
But if you can get to that spot in life, I'm telling you right now, there's not much in the world that can slow you down.
Exactly. Exactly. And for our audience, again, you can go to check out Daniel's work on his website at MacQueenDan.com. Now, as far as we're getting closer to the end of our broadcast, what would you like to leave our listeners and viewers with? What do you want them to take away with?
Life happens for you, not to you. Don't ever forget that. Don't take it for granted. Tomorrow's not promised. Like, get up and earn it, man. Enjoy it. Go for the walk. Tell the person how you feel. Build that relationship. Build that bridge. Like, it's not given tomorrow, and that's the biggest thing I can tell you is like it happens for you, not to you, and that's something that I took a little bit of a knock to realize that and appreciate that. But now it's like ever present in my life and my vibe, and remind myself every day about that.
Absolutely. And you're right. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. It's we got to take every day for granted. And yep, absolutely. Daniel, it's a blessing to have you on the show. It's an honor to have you here, telling everybody about your story and words of triumph, words of wisdom, and determination. I appreciate it. Thank you
Reverend, I appreciate
very
you,
much.
man. Thanks for your time.
You are very, very welcome. And welcome back anytime, too. If you want to come back and have something else to share, just let me know.
Cheers, brother. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance. And until then, we'll see you next week.